Durban is set to welcome the G20 Disaster Risk Reduction Working Group, uniting global leaders to enhance disaster preparedness. In the wake of recent regional calamities, including severe flooding, the focus is on strengthening resilience and fostering international cooperation. For more on this, let's take you live to Durban and to our reporter, Nobuhle Modise. Nobuhle, good afternoon to you. And climate change, climate preparedness will surely be some of the buzzwords at that conference.
Indeed, Michelle. So the overarching theme for this particular group working meeting for disaster risk reduction is generally just, preparedness for disasters through solidarity and global cooperation. And we know that, this particular region, as you've alluded to in the intro, has suffered a number of calamities, but also, just juxtaposing them with the rest of the world, where the theme today really being, early warning systems. This is a side event that is a lead up to 2 days from now, where all the global leaders will be here at the Inkosi Albert Luthuli Conference Center, discussing several ways to strengthen the disaster preparedness, but also most of them just are speaking to the fact that there are themes or priorities that have been set out by the South African government, seeing that this is the G20 under the South African presidency, and they're quite similar to those that were adopted by India and Brazil during their presidencies. And they basically around the Sunday framework on disaster risk reduction. And what we know is that a part of those priorities include disaster resilient infrastructure, as well as funding for the DRR and natural-based solutions. And just listening today on some of the solutions that were brought forward here, there was an interesting comment from someone from the South African Local Government Association, just speaking to different ways to enhance early warning systems, speaking to the fact that there should be collaboration, especially in the most vulnerable communities, for example, where they use indigenous knowledge systems, saying that is something that could be looked at. There is data to support that, where indigenous knowledge systems, together with science, do kind of work together. And we know that in South Africa, the South African Weather Service is the one that is set to give out these early warning systems, and that's how the disaster management centers are then able to ensure that they put the word out and that it filters on to the ground. And when some of the issues that were brought forward here were the issues of how to tackle preparedness and how to be really prepared, and what some of these contributing factors are. In the city of eThekwini alone, we know that there's an issue of rapid urban migration. We know that there's also the mushrooming of informal settlements where they build on floodplains, and for that the city of eThekwini would rely on the South African weather system. And they were saying that the weather system reliance 3 days prior is not really as strong as the 24 hours that they forecast, and so they use that kind of system. But a lot of conversation around exploring other ways to ensure that there are early warning systems. And we also learned that in the continent, out of the 55 countries, 22 have already adopted early warning systems for all. So we're not quite lagging behind, but we know that in eThekwini there's a number of factors. Some were saying that in other countries the issue boils down to governance, where the preparedness is not really at its top form because of issues of governance, meaning socioeconomic vulnerabilities. And that's why we see in third world countries, for example, or let me make an example with Myanmar at the moment, with the earthquake that's taking place there, and about 3,500 lives lost. And this just comes after the September 2024 flooding. And, the way they've responded is quite the same. And this is why we're seeing the many casualties that we're seeing. And you compare that to the likes of Japan, when they know that there is going to be a natural disaster, they are more prepared. So what we learned here today was the fact that collaboration is the biggest thing here to assist, the world in ensuring that, they are prepared for disasters, and that there are early warning systems that are in place in conjunction with other knowledge systems that could be incorporated. So, we find ourselves whenever disaster strikes, at the top, and we are able to ensure that people people evacuate on time, but we're not quite there. And obviously, third world countries suffering the most because, of governance issues. But the overarching theme, as I mentioned, was the fact that, they want to ensure that there's global cooperation and solidarity to ensure that we are prepared for disasters. Michelle.
Nobuhle, ironically, KwaZulu-Natal is the perfect setting for this kind of gathering, isn't it? The province has struggled for a number of years now. It's been battered by flood disaster after flood disaster, and its response has been, to put it very mildly, below par.
And quite interestingly, while having a conversation with someone from the Cooperative Governance Department nationally, when asking about, how Durban responds to disasters, he mentioned the fact that the 2017 floods that we saw where 500 people unfortunately died, the response there was not where it should be, comparing it to the April 2022 flooding, saying that there was some progress in terms of how, they responded. And then you'd know that we're not only speaking about flooding here in KwaZulu-Natal. We've also had issues where there have been fires. We've also had a tornado. We also found ourselves at some point dealing with snow where people were stuck in snow for over 19 hours. And there are some departments that seem to believe that the response that they've had thus far in the province has been actually great compared to previous disaster events. So, for the people on the ground, it could be a different story. In fact, it is a different story where they believe that they've been more than prepared and that they are making headway in ensuring that they respond on time. As I said, comparing it to 2017 and then the subsequent events after that.
Nobuhle Modise, important conversations taking place there, and there is no better venue than where you are there in KwaZulu-Natal. Nobuhle Modise is live to us at the G20 Disaster Risk Reduction Working Group.